Bales. How are you, mate? First of all, welcome back to Game Day Squad's live stream. We are here for the Women's Aussie Rules show, and Game Day Squad made an announcement today about you joining our team for the season, mate. We're stoked. Let's go. How are you, bro?
Yeah, good, mate. Good to be part of Game Day Squad again for another AFLW fantasy season. Looking forward to getting stuck into new season. The med season is nearly coming to a close, so it'd be good to watch plenty of women's footy for the next 10 weeks when we get started. But we got a bit of a different one with more sort of 11 games in 10 weeks, which is interesting. So, yeah, keen for another good season with you, mate.
Absolutely. Well, let's first of all talk about what can you expect on this live stream. Well, we're going to go and talk about the major position changes for this season and how that's going to implement or affect fantasy. So the players you should be targeting, maybe ones to avoid, all of that good stuff. And with that as well, Bales, I have a big announcement to make. We're doing a giveaway over this preseason, and I gave out a little clue before, and the clue was a star emoji. So now I wonder if you can think about what that might be. But before, why don't we get our thinking caps on, Bales? I've got a kickoff question for you. Let me set the scene.
All right, let's go.
It's Friday. The season's just kicked off, and you need to what's your go-to feed? What's the thing that you want in front of you when there's the footy about to kick off? You're about to get into a good season. What is it? Is it you can pick anything you want, any footy feed. What's the go? Talk about the best of the best.
Like footy feed. Okay, so we're talking about food here. What do we reckon? It's a good question. There's a lot of things that I don't mind sitting down, especially if I'm doing like a live stream, like a watch along with the footy.
What tops the list, mate? What first comes to mind?
It sprung me. It's sprung me. I sort of didn't expect this question straight up. I was expecting to get in the footy, but I like it. What would I have? I'm stumped.
I can go. I'll let you know what I want.
Yeah, actually, go. You go ahead. Yeah, what would you have, mate?
Mate, I'm playing very safe here. I'm going a chicken palmy. That's what I'm going with. If I could pick anything, get me a chicken palmy, put that down in front of me, and get the bloody footy on. I'm ready to rumble at that point.
Yeah. Chicken palmy, to be fair, if I was definitely going out watching the footy, that would be top of the list. Actually, you know what I'll go with? I haven't had it for a while actually watching the footy, but sit down and have a bit of pizza. Having a pizza.
Oh, pizza to slap.
Pizza, glass of Coke as well. That for me, there's no better combo than having a pizza and a glass of Coke with you. Just it meshes together and it's really good. And if it's if you're going to ask me what my choice of pizza it is, it's pepperoni, add barbecue sauce. Don't at me.
Oh,
right. Try it. If anyone hasn't tried pepperoni pizza, add barbecue sauce. Yeah, just try it and let me know because it's very very good. That's the Bale special. That one.
Fair enough, mate. We've got some people answering as well. I love to see this. What people like honey soy chicken wings. Oof.
Don't mind some chicken. Yeah, don't mind some chicken wings.
Some wings.
I'm a buffalo chicken wing person myself, but yeah, don't mind sitting down watching. We have some chicken wings. It's definitely another good one.
How about some Moe's hot dogs?
If you know, you know. I know it's only us three that know this one. That's an inside joke from Cow. That's a good one.
Oh, this is safe.
Yeah, capers. Yeah. Zinger burger box. I've been having the Zinger Crunch actually lately when I've been going to the Twister, which has been nice. So, no, this getting me hungry. Far out.
Yeah. Let's stop talking about food, eh? Let's get into it. And I want to talk about the preseason giveaway and how we are going to run this. First of all, you can be in the running to win All-Star Kate Hoare. It is the 4th edition, if I'm not mistaken, out of 20. And how you can do it is that you've got to go to Game Day Squad's YouTube channel. You've got to leave your squad name in a comment. And, if you want to leave something else in the comment, be my guest. But you don't have to. Squad name, enter. And then at the end of the preseason, I'm going to be getting everyone's submissions in and spinning the wheel. And we're going to see who's going to be the winner at the end of it. And each week, each video we do, you can put a separate submission in. So if you are here for all of the preseason content we're going to do, you'll be able to put in 3 separate submissions by the end of it. We're going to be going weekly from now on. Today, of course, is Monday, but as of next week, we'll be doing it on Wednesdays. Same time, same place. How does that sound, Bales?
Sounds pretty good. I wouldn't mind having a Kate Hoare All-Star card in my lineup. So, yeah. No, good
I
luck
wouldn't
to
mind
everyone
having
out
an
there.
all-star card in my lineup. But speaking of all-stars, Bales, I heard you got a bit excited with the all-stars coming out, and you might have nabbed a pretty bloody good one.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So just sort of late one night around the midnight times. That's sort of middle of the day for me, as people know my sleeping schedule is pretty wacky. But all gets prepared for when the EPL and the NFL starts. But in terms of owning a few packs, a few common All Star packs, and thought, oh yeah, if I can nab one, that'd be pretty good. Second pack, see the animation come up around the card. And Laura Gardner was the one that popped up. So definitely one of the best ones, especially for not only for this season, but dynasty asset as well, being like young midfielder, going to be a top line midfielder now for years to come. So I'm very, very happy with that, Paul. So the only one I probably would have liked more would have been a Noffy, Ebony Marinoff one would have been nice. But hopefully we can get one while they're still in packs.
You never know. You just might get one by the season starts. Exactly right. So for the giveaway, one last time, go to Game Day Squad's YouTube channel, leave a comment with your squad name there. And whilst you're there, maybe just leave a like for the boys, because why not? We're going to be doing it all preseason long, giving you nothing but the best. And speaking of the best, let's get in to this week's installment. We're going to be talking about players who have changed positions and their new ranks. So first of all, these people are now defenders. They've moved into the defense, Bales. We're going to go one by one here, and let's start it off with Sophie Van der Heuvel. Goodness, maybe I...
Yeah, Van der Heuvel. Yeah, Van der Heuvel. You're very close, very close. Yeah, so do you want me to give my thoughts as each one as we go? Is that sort of what we're sort of doing?
Absolutely. We'll both give our thoughts as we go. Let's talk about it. Bales, I want your opinion on Sophie. What does 2024 look like for her?
Yeah, so I guess the tricky part is the Bombers. They don't chip it around too much in the defense. So I don't know if there's going to be too many of those ceiling scores. The hope is that with Maddie Gay and Bez Keeney going over there, that maybe there could be a potential where they start chipping it around a little bit more. But they sort of, when you've got a player like Bonnie Toogood up the field, you probably want to go forward as much as possible and try and get it in her hands, because she doesn't go too bad, Bonnie Toogood. So Van Heuvel's probably one that's could be someone that you look at for particular matchups. So obviously checking your matchups and seeing which are good there, and she could be someone you pop in.
Love it. Yeah, well, last year, only the 9 games. You can see the average there, a little bit lower than some of the other players in this list. But look, there's definitely a little bit of upside. Time on ground, about 82%. And look, I think if Sophie's going to go to the next level, she averaged 9 kicks per game last season. She's going to need to bump that number up significantly, get more around that 12 on average per game, if we're going to see her sort of creep into that conversation as some of the best 7 defenders weekly. But I definitely think it's one to watch for sure. It's someone that you should be keeping your eye on, because, again, if her role does change just that little bit and she get her hands on the ball just that little bit more, we can completely flip our opinions here on Sophie, and maybe she's a set and forget. But as of right now, I'm pretty safe to say she wouldn't be starting in my squad, at least in week 1 or round 1.
Yep.
All righty. Let's get into the next one. We got Jade Ellinger from the Brisbane Lions, a defender this season. Bales, what do we think about Jade? What's her upside? How are you looking at this season?
So yeah, with Jade, had a decent year last year, sort of moving. I think she's more of that sort of wing role, but then last year played a little bit more in that defensive role and had some good games throughout the year. So I think very similar to Van der Heuvel, probably one that you're looking at as well, because I think with the top defenders we've already got there, you might have probably 2 or 3 locks in your lineup each week that no matter what the matchup is, you just chuck them in. So your likes of your Charlie Thomas, your Isla Sheerans, like players like that. Ruby Slicer, who'll be obviously coming back this season as well. Don't be sleeping on her just because she didn't play last year, because she's one of those premium defenders you want. But yeah, Jade Ellinger, she's got a good matchup as well. Could be someone that you do target. But if she's showing form in the early part of the season, which I think she could have a little bit of upside, then she could be someone that might be a little bit more of a regular feature in our lineups.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, for sure. Again, 70 average there. 9 games, and just so you know, so I've got the defender rank down below. Now, what this means, of course, the season hasn't started. How can they be ranked 23 and 19, Sophie and Jade? Well, if you were to take 2024 positions and add it to last year, this is what their rank would have been. So if this season went exactly like last season, well, then we can expect Ellinger to finish as the 19th ranked defender. So that's what that number means at the bottom. It's just an indicator of where they're going to sit this season, or roughly whereabouts they'll sit. So that's just wanted to point that out, because how can you be ranked when you haven't started yet? But very similar to Sophie, under 10 kicks a game, which isn't a really good sign when you're looking at a defender. You definitely want to be up above into the double digits, and hopefully even more. So, look, one to watch for sure. Does have a pretty solid role, though, I must say. Spends a bit of time on ground, rarely comes off as well. But going to need to see a little bit more out of her in terms of her kicking game and disposals game to just jump up into that like top 15, top 10 defender range. So that's sort of my thoughts there. And Bales, we're going to move it over to Rebecca Webster from the Geelong Cats. Now, 78.3 fantasy average in 2023. It's looking a little bit juicier now. What do we think about Webster's season, especially in such a, let's call it, stacked Geelong defense in terms of fantasy with Emerson and Conjucker down there as well?
Yeah, so out of the first 3 names we've discussed, she's the one I'm most keen on. I think she could be one of these players that finishes as a top 5, and I think she's probably a very good chance of finishing the top 10 as well. I'd be putting her in my top 10 because she's going to be playing, I think, more midfield this year. I think that we saw last year, she had a slow start in terms of she had an interrupted preseason last year, played a bit more defense and wasn't able to get as much mid-time. But from all reports, it sounds like she's going to be playing that midfield role this year, or at least get more minutes in the midfield after having a good run at leading into the season. So I'm really keen. I don't know if I can't remember if I think I've got a Beck Webster in my club, but if I don't though, she'd be one that I'll be trying to get now, while she could be a bit cheaper, because people look at it and go, Beck Webster, defender ranks 32, averages 78.3 last year. There's other players that are higher, but I think she'd be one that I'd be targeting. So a bit of a sneaky one there for anyone looking to buy someone on the transfer market.
Absolutely. Let me pull up some of these. Here's some submissions right here for Kate Hall All-Star card. That's all you need to do. Go to Game Day Squads, YouTube, leave a comment with your squad name. As I said, leave a like if you're there as well. But here we go. We've got some people on the board already. Bales, I feel like I'm about to see your name drop there as well. I don't know if you could be eligible for this one, but let's talk about Webster. And I totally agree with you in the terms of she definitely has midfielder upside, and that's exactly what you're trying to look for. Let's compare her to maybe the Hannah Priest of 2023.
Yeah, yep.
We know how she elevated her game to the next level once she was able to secure that midfielder role. We do know that at times she did go into a tagging role, and sometimes we saw a big dip in her fantasy score. But Priest is now a midfielder this year, and it's for good reason. It's because she scored bloody well in the midfield last season. And as a defender doing that, it was fantastic. And she was one of those player cards that you needed. Otherwise, you were just going to fall behind. So it's a big, big thing to look out for. How much mid-time is Webster going to get? And, that's just going to pretty much be the story of her season. If she can get into that role, then, wow, she's going to elevate herself to a completely different ball game of defenders. But a lot of ifs, whats, and buts, but that's what we love about fantasy. That's why we're here in the preseason, because if you target someone like Webster now, before it happens, then you maybe get her for, cents to the dollar. So that's definitely one to stash. Couldn't agree more, Wales. Yep. Let's get in to our next defenders. We're going to start off with Gabrielle Newton from the Fremantle Dockers. Wales, how are we looking at Newton's season coming up? You can see there, positional rank of 9th. If we were to play with the positions from last year, or this year's positions with last year's scores. So this is definitely one with the highest ranked, at least we've spoken about so far.
Yeah, well, exactly. I guess the thing I'm probably worried about with Gabby Newton, it's actually probably not a worry. It's just more the fact that she's going to a new team. So obviously she was at the Bulldogs last year, and she's moved across to Freo. But Freo, a lot of questions this season in terms of I don't really know exactly what they're rolling with in terms of like you got their midfield, but then that impacts their forward mix, their defensive mix. I'm not sure exactly really what role she's going to play. Is she going to play in that defensive role she did last season? She's going to play more forward of the ball. I guess just because with a few players leaving Freo, with Kiara Bowers and Ange Staton missing the season. Unfortunately for both, in a way, fortunate for Kiara Bowers, obviously being pregnant, and then Ange Staton, unfortunately, obviously doing her ACL. So Freo, few questions. So Gabby Newton's definitely one that if you've got in your club, you definitely keep hold of her and sort of see how the cards fall. She might be able to be plugged into your team at some point, but I don't know if I'd be starting her the first week or two.
Yeah, and fair enough as well. The average is definitely looking a little bit tastier from last season, but I don't know if that's going to be an indication, as you mentioned, of what 2024 is going to look like. Again, a lot of question marks around what her role is going to be, but there's definitely a need for midfield time and midfield minutes at the Fremantle Dockers. But are they going to go to Newton? I guess that's the big question. Very similar to the conversation before. So, look, her statistics from last season, she was at 10 kicks a game, 5 handballs, so about 15 disposals, 4 marks, 3 tackles. So there was good involvement. There was good time on ground, but completely different team. I think week 1, we're going to be able to tell a lot more of what Newton's season's going to look like. But for now, could be a cheeky stash before people hop on it, before, that role becomes clear. Maybe you want to get in Newton now, target her, and keep her into your club, in your squad, so you're ready to rumble for the season start.
Yeah, exactly.
Mate, we're going to talk about Karen Peterson from the Carlton Blues. Now, average of 84 fantasy points per game last year, but the problem is only 3 games. So that's why her defender rank is at 104. Her total points just wasn't there. Bales, hopefully, we're wishing for a little bit more good health this season. What can we expect from Peterson heading in to the next one?
Yeah, so Karen Peterson, it's really good that she's listed defender because obviously she was just a midfielder last year, so it wasn't relevant because obviously the midfielders there's a plethora of midfielders. I think in our squads you've probably got your Marinovs and your Gardners are locked in every week, and then the last 3 spots, and then on your bench, it's quite hard to sort of go, well, who are going to be the remaining 3 on field, and then the one on the bench that you're going to put in because they're all the high scorers in the game for the in women's Aussie Rules on Game Day squad. So Karen Peterson, though, I'm a fan of. So and the fact she averaged 84 as well from 3 games. I don't know if people know, but she actually had a game last year in round 8 against the Giants where she only scored 24 points, but she actually played. Be a little bit higher. I've just got a different stat up on my screen, but she plays a key defender in that game. So I think she's going to be playing more of that key distributor role and being one of sort of getting a lot of ball back there. So I think Karen Peterson, that average of 84 could even be bumped up higher based on the other games that she played. So I'm a fan of Karen Peterson. She's definitely one that you could even start in round 1 in your game day squad in your 5 defenders.
Absolutely. Mate, let me just quickly clarify this. How is the highest average ranked so low? Because it's a combination of not just the average score, but also total points. So that's how we make the rankings. It's total points and average score over last season, and that's your indication of what the rank is. So because she only played 3 games, a ranking of 104 is that's the reason why. But of course, we're talking about her with having much more upside. And, if we were to do these rankings based off projections for this season, I have a feeling she might be more like a top 10 defender rather than at the 104 mark. So again, this is just based off last year's statistics. So don't have to look into it too much. It's just sort of an indicator of where someone was at. And I guess it's more relevant when the person and the players we're talking about have played 10 games because it gives you a clearer picture of last season. But yeah, Peterson, again, very heavily involved. 12 kicks, 6 handballs, so really good. 80% time on ground as well. 4 tackles a game. She can just sort of bump those numbers up a little bit. And as you mentioned, with a bit more of a midfield role, a distributor role at that, she's going to creep into the conversation of the top 10 or even top 7 defenders weekly. I love the play that you're saying is a week 1 start because, look, if you look at the numbers from last year, maybe people aren't so confident putting Peterson in, but I reckon it's a good player to put in there because I just feel like that role is going to be pretty safe. in terms of scoring fantasy points. So top 7 defender for round 1. Bales, you think yes? And I'm actually, I think I'm with you.
Beautiful. Good to see you on the same page, mate.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into Madison Newman. Your Crow at that, played 10 games last season, would have been ranked 7th as a defender. Talk to me about this, Bales. Are you excited about your fellow Crow? What's going on for this season?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say, just before we did get in to that one, obviously, Cal put in the comment in the live chat there as well, saying that, yeah, obviously, Karen Peterson was the 4th highest averaging defender based on the averages last year if she was in defence. So, yeah, definitely someone, and that was only, again, from limited games. So, yeah, definitely someone you've got to keep in mind for the upcoming season. And in terms of Maddie Newman, she had a really good year last year. So, having a bit of new role as such, she was still sort of playing sort of wing, sort of defense, a little bit like Jay Lenger in a way the year before. But last year sort of really took on the responsibility of that key distributor coming out of the Crows back line. Obviously, you got Chelsea Bedell is there as well. It gets a lot of the ball, but she's probably one that gets a lot of kick-ins, the main interceptor, sort of almost like your quarterback, if you like, back there. But Maddie Newman was that real sort of run and carry distributor and had a really good season. So in terms of average, well, she defender ranked number 7 for the season. 80 average is not too far behind like Karen Peterson. So, and she played the whole season. So, yeah, I think Maddie Newman definitely is someone that is going to be in amongst those defenders that you're going to be putting in your team week on week.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess to add to that, we're talking about a midfield that has Noffy and Hatchard in there. So one of the absolute best midfields in the entire competition heading into this season. And if you can get someone explosive like Newman, we saw Kelly play that wing role last year, being explosive, being able to break the line and take the ball moving forward. That's just what they want. They want an outside player like that, and Newman stepping into that role is definitely going to benefit the rewards of playing in such a stacked team at that. Averages from last year, 11 kicks, 6 handballs, 3 marks, 2 tackles. If we can get those marks up, I know she breaks the line, so it's not really a role where you're going to be doing that, where it's going to be kick mark, but it's definitely some potential there. And in terms of your squad, Newman's an absolute must target. Heading into the defense this year, you're absolutely going to want her because, yeah, I think she's in for a really cracker season.
Yeah, agreed.
Alrighty, Bales, let's get in. We've got our last 3 defenders we're going to talk about, and I am not going to embarrass myself and try to pronounce Elizabeth's name. So I'm just going to go with Elizabeth.
Georgia Stathis.
Georgia Stathis. It reminds me of Giannis Antetokounmpo a little bit. I can't lie. Just the really long surname that I don't want to attempt to pronounce.
It's Greek, I'm assuming. So most Greek names go quite long. So,
but mate, talk to me. What can we expect in 2024 from Elizabeth?
Yeah, so Dogs struggled a little bit last year, and obviously a lot of changes has happened there. But I think she's in for a good year. Again, she's very similar to Peterson, where she was only a midfielder only last year in game day squad. So not many people were looking at her. Obviously, you won't get to put her in your side over some of those midfielders. Exactly. But this year, going back, in defence for game day squad, is definitely shot her up in terms of high relevance week on week. I think she's going to be that, again, a little bit like Maddie Newman, that main distributor coming out of the Bulldogs back line. If the Dogs do struggle, it'll mean the ball's back there a bit as well, which means that there's only going to be more points available. And she might even take some kick-ins. We saw it on some kick-ins last year when we all love, regardless if it's the men's or women's fantasy with the footy, you just want your defenders to take kick-ins because it's some extra points, unless they want to be a bit silly and take the kick-in while they're still in the square, which we don't like as fantasy coaches. So, but yeah, so I think Jordan Stats is definitely one. If you don't have her, you go grab her. And again, Lutch Peterson will be, I think, quite cheap on the market because I don't know if a lot of people would have clicked on just yet. She's got defender status. So, yep, definitely one you got to have. And as like their defender ranking, number 5 there. So, very, very high up.
Yep. Well, you said it there, mate. Defender ranking number 5. First of all, played the 10 games, durable, and is about 90% time on ground as well. So rarely ever hits the pine on the side to go to the bench. She's going to play really bulk minutes in a side, as you said, that we could see struggle a little early on in the season. And the more the ball's down back for Elizabeth, the better it's going to be in terms of fantasy output because opportunity will equal production, and she's bound to get some points there. And I do love your point about the kick-ins. The kick-ins are so crucial for a player, and with game day squad kick-ins or kicks being +4, it's even more important to make sure if you can get easy kicks and easy disposals that way, it's really going to boost your round score. So definitely, Elizabeth is one you're going to want to target. This is one that I currently have, and I'm super stoked. She's going to be starting in my squad for round 1. I'm really, really high on her upside for the season. I think it's a really safe play, and also we just know what we're going to expect. And that 82 average is honestly very achievable and could even go higher heading into this season. So
100%.
we could even see her do that a little bit better than last. So yeah, definitely big ups there. And I think that ranking is going to be pretty similar to this season as well. Very excited. Let's talk about her teammate, though. Let's go to Jessica Fitzgerald. She's also a defender from the Western Bulldogs, average a little bit lower, defender ranked just outside of that top 10 Bales. But what do we expect for Fitzgerald heading into this one?
So Jess is probably a preseason watch for me. I think that this might be a bit of a gift from the game day squad gods there, because I think she was mostly midfielder last year, but there has been a lot of rumours that she will be, and all the talk is she'll be playing as a defender this year for the Dogs. So if she's a defender, then she could be someone that we look at. It would just probably be interesting to see how does that mix of, if Jess Fitzgerald's back there and Georgia Stathis, and then how does that all sort of work, and who's going to get the points? Are they going to steal off each other? Are they both going to score well, or are they both going to, or is it going to be one that sort of outshines from the other? So I think Jess is probably one that's a preseason watch before putting her in. I don't know if I'd start with her in round 1 on field or whatever, but she's one that if you've got her, it's always, at the end of the day, it's always good to have every player, right? Because it gives you the most options. So I'd still go grab her. She was ranked 12th last year in terms of if she was a defender. So definitely one to keep an eye on, and in terms of role. And if you get a chance to even watch any of the practice games this weekend, that would be something I'd be looking at with her role.
Definitely. Well, we definitely want to see what her role is heading into this round, because I think that's going to 100% just show us what this season's going to be like. But I do have a little bit of concern with Fitzgerald. As you mentioned, she did spend a good chunk of her time in the midfield last season, and, you know, she only got an average of 75.2. And I just have concerns that if she is going to play a full-time defender role, do they take away from each other? I know we spoke about Rebecca Webster before from Geelong, and like they've got Chantel Emerson there, they've got Kunjaka. Are they all going to take away from each other? I guess it's pretty similar with here. I do have some concerns that, first of all, there's only so many mouths to feed and so many disposals to get. But also, if that is the highest upside we've seen from Fitzgerald in the midfield, then maybe it's one to be a little bit more patient on. I don't think I'd be rushing into getting a Fitzgerald into my squad at least. That's just sort of my opinion. I think I'm a little bit harsher with this because I just know how important it is to have a midfield role, and that if it's not working and clicking there, then I can't see it being any better as a defender. So I guess my worry is I feel like that defender ranking of 12 from last year's stats is sort of like the upside that we're looking at, and there might not be much more beyond that. But I will agree to disagree, Bales, because you never know. That's the beauty of fantasy.
Exactly.
Look at this. Bales, you're getting a shout out. Smashing the name pronunciations, clearly in mid-season form already.
Yeah. It's good to, when you listen to a heap of podcasts like I do, and you get to hear that when you actually hear the names pronounced either by the player themselves or someone that knows them and then says it's pronounced that way. So shout out to the Free Kick team for doing the interview with Georgia Stathis and yeah, getting the name on point, I guess.
Absolutely. Bales, we've got a great question here, mate. I'm going to hand this over to you. You have to pick one between the Dogs defenders. Who do we think we're picking?
Yeah, so if you're going for a dog defender, I think it's Elizabeth Georgia Stathis. That's where I'd be going. I just think, yeah, she had the role last year. There's more confidence that role's going to stay. And I don't think that Jess Fitzgerald coming back in will. I honestly don't think it'll affect her too much. It'll just be, can Jess Fitzgerald score well as well? But I think there's a lot more trust with Georgia Stathis to start the year. So I would be going with her as my pick for a Dogs defender.
Yeah, absolutely same. I think the kick-ins, all the numbers, everything's indicating that Georgia Stathis is going to be a little bit of a safer option, at least initially. And I'm definitely interested to see how these trial games go and to see both of their roles. Just want to pull up one other comment from Fez. Fez is sort of our GOAT at Game Day Squad. He has won plenty of competitions. But Lucas Rod is actually a midfielder. So currently she's listed as a defender, but she will be changed to a midfielder by the season starts. So that's why she wasn't brought up in here, because she won't be getting a position change. She'll be staying the same as a mid from last season. But Bales, we're going to round off the defenders with Gilroy from Hawthorne. We can see there an average of 66.6. Would have had a defender rank of 17th last year due to playing the 10 full games. So what's your thoughts on Gilroy, and what can we expect?
Here's Aileen Gilroy. She shows a lot of promise. She's very quick. Obviously Irish background as well, so she's got that Irish flair that we like to see both in the men and women's games.
Yep.
So had a really good season the year prior in Hawthorn's first season. Sort of not took a step back, but I guess as Hawthorn had that little bit of improvement last year, she wasn't as relied upon. And she did go a little bit more in defence last year, which is obviously why she's got defender status now. So again, one that if you've got her in the club, obviously never hurts to have all the players in your club. One to watch, not one I'll be starting to start the season, but definitely one to keep an eye on to see how she goes. And you could always bring her in at some point during the season.
Yeah, 100%. The numbers definitely are a little bit underwhelming, as you can see with the average there. Also, 9 kicks, 2 handballs, 2 marks, 4 tackles. She does spend a good chunk of time on the ground, though, with 88% from last season. But, I just don't think this is a player I'm going to be putting into my squad for round 1. Definitely, as you mentioned, Bales, one to watch. I love your points there. But, yeah, I'd definitely be proceeding, I guess, with caution. It wouldn't be panic trading or purchasing a Gilroy for your squads. Let that one come if it comes, and see what it looks like heading into the season. Bales, we're going to get into our midfielders, mate. Let's flick it over and talk about Nicole Barr. So let's get into it, mate. This season, Nicola Barr, sorry. How are we feeling about Barr, midfielder for GWS? You can see the average there, mid-rank of 30. It's a little bit on the higher side as you'd want, but is there some upside there for you?
Yeah, so I think the midfielders will be most players that get mid status you're probably not particularly happy with, just because there's so many high scorers already there. In terms of Nicola Barr, unfortunately, just because there's so many scorers, I just don't think she'll be relevant for us this year. I just don't think she'll be scoring enough. So unfortunately, I don't think we'll be looking at her.
Yeah, absolutely. And couldn't agree more. Position change to the midfield, unfortunately, was sort of maybe the end of some fantasy relevance. And if you look at the top midfielders from last year, I think the averages were at about 133. And that was Gardner, and that was Noffy, and that is significantly less than 133. I guess your next tier after that was sort of Riddell, Rowbottom, Laura Gardner, who's now a mid, but they're sort of sitting around that 125. 130 range. So there's definitely a very steep decline in terms of fantasy points. And yeah, it's just one of those things that Nicola Barr, we just won't be looking at for our squads this year. And if you were going to start her, it's a massive, massive pod. So definitely proceed with caution.
Well, your favourites is coming up next, though. One of your girls from last year, if people were tuning in.
Yes. Oh, goodness. Well, likewise, Sophie Conway was a forward last year for the Brisbane Lions, but spent a good chunk of her season on the wing. She had an average of 90.2 with 9 games played, and she would have been ranked as 47 this year. So you can see, as someone who was a top forward last year, how much it really hurts heading into that midfield because of how elite our top tier of midfielders are. And like Nicole Barr, I don't think we're going to see her streaming too much into our squads. She only had averages of 11 kicks and 3 handballs. Realistically, if there was any chance that she was going to creep into our squads, we would need to see those kicks go well above 15 for average per game in order for her to become somewhat relevant. But still, if we did see that happen, for me, it's still going to be a matchup to matchup basis, and it would need to be a very, very positive matchup for Sophie Conway. In order to do it. But Bales, what are your thoughts on Conway for the season?
Yeah, I think similar to Bath. Unfortunately, there's just too many big scoring mids, unfortunately, that I just don't think we're going to be able to fit her in this year.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Yeah.
That change is tough. And we're going to go next to one of my Swannies, Chloe Malloy. She has an average of 97.1, 10 games, 22 for rank if it was off last year's positioning. But I guess my big issue with Malloy Bales, I'm not sure what your thoughts are, but she does play a little bit like Bontempelli at times, if you want to give a comparison, where she will sit forward for good chunks of the game or even just based off a matchup, and it can completely kill her fantasy potential. So when she does sit in the forward line, if she's not kicking a ton of goals, then, it's really going to hurt your score because she's not getting her hands on the footy. So that's my biggest thing is I'm not sure when to pick Malloy when she's going to be in the midfield, when to pick her when she's going to, or when to avoid her if she's going to head into that forward role.
Yeah. The only thing is, I think you might have made a bit of a error here because I was pretty sure Malloy was a midfielder in game day squad last year. So I think Fez is putting that in the chat as well. And I'm pretty sure remembering Malloy being a straight mid in game day squad. So
Yeah.
I reckon you just put her in because you want to talk about a few Swans players, I reckon.
I did. I can't. But the reason I put her in is in other formats, she was a forward last year. And I know in game day squad, she was a mid. And I have a feeling some people were hoping maybe this year we would go the forward, but unfortunately did spend too much time in the midfield. So I did want to have the discussion around it because I did think it was interesting. But
yeah,
I guess on that conversation, Bales, is there a chance that someone like Malloy for this season plays a good chunk of the time in the forward line and we could see a position change in the future? Is this one, if we're looking at this as a dynasty perspective, that you're going to want to stash just in case that happens? Because an average of 97 as a forward would nearly put you at that number one spot.
Yeah. I think even Malloy as a midfield this year is another one that, because she plays so well and there are going to be games where she is required to be in the midfield a bit more, I think that she could still put up some good scores. So she's definitely someone that you could still put in with your midfielders as that maybe fifth spot or sixth spot on a certain week, a matchup one. So unlike probably Nicola Barr and Sophie Conway, I'd be a bit more confident that Malloy could feature in my squad at some point during the season for a particular week. So yeah, definitely one to put on the list there. And if she does end up getting a forward status in a year, like maybe next year, or if she plays a bit more forward, she'll be one of those top sort of forwards we're talking about. So, yep, Malloy is one to be having in your club. And funny enough, I've got the number one Everpack Silver in my club, which is looks nice having the number one next to it.
That is so cool. Absolutely. Let's get into our next ones, and we're going to look at some 2023 All-Stars at that. Let's start with Sarah Rowe. Very similar to Sophie Conway that we were talking about before. Very similar role, but she plays for Collingwood. She had an average of 91.4 from last season. You can see there playing 10 games would have ranked her at 28th. Bales, how are we feeling about Sarah Rowe, and is she going to be startable or streamable in your squad throughout points of this season?
Yeah, so it's probably a bit of a theme of a few of these mids. Unfortunately, Sarah Rowe, very, very good player, but for our game day squads, I don't think she's probably going to feature much at all. But just again because of how stacked the mids are. If you've got Sarah Rowe, the hope is that maybe she plays off a half forward at some point. She gets forward status again, and she would put in her forward lines. But as a mid, probably not for me this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. It's just too much of a score discrepancy when you're looking at these players to the top midfielders to warrant starting. Look, maybe there's going to be a matchup where Rowe goes bonkers because she does have that potential with her speed and her ability to have one of those high kick, high disposal games and could creep into the conversation. But her upside sort of sits at where some of our top midfielders' averages are. So if you're going to be taking the risk and with a pod like Sarah Rowe, it's more than likely not really going to pay off in regards to some of the other scores you could have gotten in the round. So, Bales, it is a theme, and unfortunately, we're going to continue that theme. But the next player, another Swanee, wanted to chuck in there for good reason.
I've got that player in my club. I've got Laura Gardner's All-Star card in my club. It looks nice looking at there and going, I've got that one in my club already. Sorry to anyone that doesn't have her.
You cheeky bugger. You cheeky bugger, mate. I'm so jealous, firstly, that you have a Gardner All-Star card. And as we said, with most people, going from a forward to a midfielder sort of means maybe the end for you in terms of your fantasy potential. But with an average of 133 fantasy points, 10 games played in 2023, and a rank of number 4 for the season, if she was a mid last year, Laura Gardner is the exception to the rule. Bales, how are we feeling about Gardner's 2024 season upcoming?
Yeah, you said it well. She was an absolute gift for us last year in the forward line. She just obviously absolutely smashed it there. And going into the midfield, it's sort of, we've said a few of these players just won't be able to average as much as the other players in there. But Laura Gardner's right up there. She's in the same sort of conversation as your Marinoff, your Garners, your Row Bottoms, like right at the top there. So yeah, Laura Gardner for me will be featuring. Even if I didn't have her All-Star card, even if you've got a bronze, a silver, whatever card you got, I still think Laura Gardner is going to be in there probably more often than not. Maybe you don't put her in maybe one matchup because someone's got an insane matchup and you can't fit all those midfielders in. But for me, I think Gardner will very likely be in my squad for every week, I think. So yeah, definitely someone that you're going to be one target. Will probably be expensive based on what she did last year, but if you can get a Laura Gardner in your club, you would be very, very happy.
Well, let me just add to this. If you are new around here and you're watching the stream, Game Day Squad is a fantasy sports platform, of course. We do women's Aussie rules. You can join by going to www.gamedaysquad.com.au. It is free to play and free to win. We've got a starter competition, which is bronze cards only, and we give you a bunch of gun players to get your journey started. So if you haven't and you're super pumped like us for this women's Aussie Rules season, definitely get on board. It's never too late because it's the preseason. If anything, it's the perfect time. And if you're lucky enough to get someone like a Laura Gardner, she is an absolute must-start, set and forget. Her role for the Swans last year is so fantasy friendly. They just need a ball-dominant midfielder to help them tick along. She's going to have Morfitt back in the squad this year as well. She spent a good time on the Pine, so she's going to have her starting ruck back. She's going to have Malloy by her side to help her, but Gardner's going to be the top dog in terms of disposals. She's going to get most of the pill, and she's going to continue to produce seasons like we saw last year. I'm super bullish and super high on Laura Gardner. Swans goggles on, of course, but despite me being a Swans fan, she's an absolute stud of a player, and like you just got to get one. If you don't have a Laura Gardner, definitely a trade target before the season starts, because even as a forward, to finish the season as fourth, and that was her first season with the Swans, mind you. We could even see her go to another level with a full preseason and a full season under her belt in the red and white. So
and she's young as well, so probably one of, if not the top dynasty asset in Game Day Squad. So yeah, definitely get one.
Alrighty, Bales, we're going to finish it off with, for this like Keely skipper from the Carlton Blues, an 84.5 average, 8 games played last year, would have had a rank of 73. 2024, is there much upside here, or is it the same old story?
It is for this season, but with Keely Skepper, it's definitely one I'd be looking again for stashing in your club as a dynasty asset. Carlton are very high on her and her future at the club. Her kick is very, very good. So I think Carlton want to use that in years to come, and she would be someone that definitely could raise that average of 84.5 well over 100 in the future if sort of she keeps progressing. So definitely one to stash in the club. She won't be in your squad this year, but in terms of future, definitely could feature. So I'd be maybe stashing 1 or 2 in your club.
Nice, mate. We've got an offer for you here. Feel like trading, Bales? Someone's going to get you a sub. I assume they're talking about a Subway for your Laura Gardner. How are you feeling about that offer?
Yeah. I think they might be saying trade a sub, like as in they'll subscribe to the channel if I trade them a Gardner. Unfortunately, I would love you to subscribe. Make sure you do subscribe to both Game Day Squad and also Fantasy Fanatics while you're at it if you want to do that. But I don't think I'll be trading a Laura Gardner, unfortunately, just because of how valuable she'll be to my own squad. So
can we get some clarification? Firstly, what type of sub? And secondly, if it is Subway, what type of sub again? Are we talking pizza? Are we talking some, chicken? Like we need to know. I think there's levels to this and the value.
Tom, mate, you're gonna be making me want to pull out Uber Eats right while we're streaming just to try and get some food. I'm starving, and we're talking about food still. If it's a sub for me, probably
maybe you can get him right now.
I switch between the two. If you're talking about subs, it's between either chicken teriyaki, which I haven't had that for a bit actually, or pepperoni. Obviously with the peach as well, but I like the pepperoni one as well. I also don't mind the meatball sub as well. That's not too bad. But yeah, they're a few good ones.
Alrighty. I agree, mate. I'm too hungry to keep talking. But yeah, dynasty asset. Let's move on to our next three midfielders. And we have another 2023 All-Star in one of your girls from the Crows, mate, and a person who I know we both featured so much last season in our squads. It's Naeem Kelly. 88.3 average, 10 games played, a 34 rank if we looked at last season. So what are we thinking about Kelly's 2024 campaign?
Yeah, Neve Kelly was fantastic last season, both as a Crows fan and as a fantasy player as well. Just getting the job done out in the wing. Again, it was probably a bit like a few of these forwards last year that was really good to have a player playing up the ground further and being available as a forward. But this year, obviously, as a midfielder, yeah, just unfortunately with a few of these other players that you're probably not featuring her at all in your squad. But the thing I probably would have said with Sarah Rowe and also Neve Kelly is if you do have their All-Star card, and you sort of just start, if you manage to pack one of them and you're sort of just starting and you've just registered for Game Day Squad, which make sure you do if you haven't already, that if you pack an All-Star card, they could be better than a few of the mids you've already got in your club. So the All-Star card could actually feature in your team. But probably outside of that, I think there'll be better options in our midfields this season.
Yep, absolutely. Definitely potential for a position change in the future as well. So you never know. Could get back into that forward role. But I will say one thing with Kelly is that we have seen her go absolutely bonkers in some games with getting super, super high disposals. So there is the chance where she has the odd 20 kick game, 25 kick game, and she just goes nuts in terms of score. But it's definitely a pod play firstly, and it's one that you're going to want to stream in through a good matchup. So in terms of I wouldn't be, trading away the house to go get yourself a Kelly, but definitely a good stash and someone you're going to want in the club for sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of someone you're going to want in the club, let's talk about Zali Goldsworthy, an average of 113.1 with 10 games played and would have ranked her as the 6th midfielder for last season. Bales, this is a dynasty asset. And I know you said before with Laura Gardner, maybe one of the best of the game. I have a feeling Goldsworthy has something to say about that. What do you think about Goldsworthy's 2024 campaign and what we can expect from her?
Yeah, well, it's up to you if you want to group her with the next player we'll chat about, which you can see on the screen in Ella Roberts. I think, yeah, again, these two players, and particularly obviously Goldsworthy with what we saw last season with that 113.1 average. Yeah, these are two of the top 5 dynasty assets again. Laura Gardner obviously being up there, sort of probably almost preference in terms of where you'd probably rank it. If I was to rank, I'd probably go Gardner 1 just because of what we saw last year. But with Goldsworthy, the fact that she played a fair bit of midfield last year with a few players coming into the Giants this year, does she play a little bit more forward, which would be obviously not amazing this year in terms of being a straight midfielder, but next year she managed to get forward status back in Game Day Squad, but be one of the top ones there. But I think both her and Ella Roberts, I think both could feature in our teams at some point in our midfields because they're probably sort of a little tiny bit below in terms of the ceiling that like a Marinoff Gardner and Roadbottom and the likes of them. But they've got the sort of a ceiling on a given week where they can put out a really good score. So I think both of them will feature in my team at some point, but I think you're probably looking at matchups for Goldsworthy, I think, before when you're putting you in your side.
For sure. Well, let me give you some insight into last season, Bales. Out of the top 5 highest scores from last season, Goldsworthy had 2 of them, cracking 190 fantasy points twice. She, at the end of the season, was on an absolute tear. And of course, this was playing a little bit of time in the midfield, but also a good chunk of it up forward, just kicking bags of goals and truly looking like one of the best dynasty assets we have ever seen in women's Aussie rules. So Goldsworthy is an absolute must-have because she is so young. She's a dynasty asset, and I think her future just has stardom written all over it. Yep. We know she's going to be a fantastic fantasy player. Will she be set and forget for this season? I'm sort of with you there, Bales. I think we want to proceed with caution in terms of that and maybe play her in some better matchups, some more positive matchups. But nonetheless, you're going to need a Zali Coldsworthy if you're going to play game day squad. It's definitely a must target at that as well.
Yeah.
And you touched on Ella Roberts there, our last mid for this segment. Yeah, same thing. Just absolute stud, super young. And I can only see her role in midfield time and just sort of her dominance in the middle just increasing as her career progresses. We've seen how silky smooth and clean she can be whilst playing. And, for West Coast, she's just one of those upside players that we just don't know where the limit is for her. I don't think we've seen the best of her yet, and that's saying something because she has had such a fantastic start. But, yeah, we could see Roberts head into a whole different discussion after, playing a bit more time in the middle and becoming one of those ball-dominant mids at that, sort of like a Laura Gardner. So Roberts as well, absolute must-have, dynasty value. And I know her average doesn't look fantastic, but just watch her play. She passes the eye test 1,000 times over. So, yeah.
Yep, agreed. Yeah, she's Daisy Pearce was saying earlier on in the preseason as well that they're looking to play her a little bit more in the midfield this season. We saw a couple of games towards the end of the year where she did play a lot more midfield and went well over the ton in game day squad. So, yeah, definitely one that could be in your side at some point this year, but one of the top dynasty assets. So make sure you got her in your club.
Love it. Love it. Couldn't agree more, mate, for sure. Let's move on to our rucks. We've got two significant ones. We're going to start off, first of all, with King from the Kangas. Emma King last season would have had an average of 73.7, 10 games played, and would have gained herself a rank of just 8th. What do we think? I know rucks is a pretty tough spot to play because it just felt like last season there was only really 2 or 3 legitimate options in the rounds, and then everyone else sort of just hit the side and hit the back seat. But is King a card you're going to want to target, Bales? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, so obviously we got a few of these top rucks, and I don't think we'll be putting Emma King in our side this year. But if anything were to happen to Kim Rennie, which obviously we hope not, but if it were and Emma King became the solo ruck at North Melbourne, that could be where it might get a little bit interesting, and you might be able to have a look for a week or two if something happened, and then you can see if you play her. But obviously, we've got a couple of those rucks at the top, and obviously one of your Swannies in Ali Morfitt featured in both of our squads last year plenty of times and almost a feature in our ruck spot. So it's going to be hard to knock the likes of her and Alice Edmonds and Mim Strom and a few of those ones at the top, but you just never know. So, yeah, one to probably keep an eye on to see what happens at North.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. Keep an eye on, and look, we don't want to talk about that and speculate over people hitting the pine and getting injured, but it's definitely a case of that. Like, just an upside playing in the dual ruck spot just isn't too much. Like 8 looks really good, but if you look at some of those top guns, they're pushing more that 100 fantasy point mark. And I think the biggest indicator for King of that is that she only averaged 15 hitouts per game. And realistically, if she's going to take her game to the next level and have the starting ruck role, we could see that jump to closer to 30, which, is an extra 15 fantasy points on top. And there we have it. That's the upside we want right there. And then we're talking about King as a startable ruck every round. But speaking of startable rucks, we're going to talk about Sabrina Frederick, who was a forward last year for the Magpies, had 88.5 average per game, 10 games played, and a position rank of 1. Now, this is one of those players that very durable, started every single game, as you can tell, but her average is a little bit lower than our Morfitt style of rucks. But, we got 2 ruck spots this season. The squads are a little bit different in game day squad. Is Frederick a target and a ruck you're going to want to start?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely one. I think she'll be sort of among the top sort of 5, 6, 7 rucks there. So especially if they've got a good matchup and you look at that and you want to put her into your squad, then I think she definitely will feature at some point. So yeah, someone to put into your club and have her, because it'd be good if she came up with a really easy matchup and you could plug her into your squad for that week. So yeah, definitely will be one of those top few rucks and one to keep an eye on.
For sure. Yeah, definitely in the conversation of top rucks for every round. And of course, just has that ruck spot and role just sealed. she's got it at Collingwood. No one's going to contest. 29 hit-outs on average per game last season. 7 kicks as well. So, if we can see that maintained where she's getting her hands on the ball, she's getting good disposals, plus also such an elite hit-out rate, then Sabrina Frederick is absolutely a must-have ruck heading into this next season. And yeah, it's definitely going to be in that conversation weekly for whether we're going to put her into our squads or not. But you're going to want to have her, that's for sure.
Yeah, agreed.
Mate, let's get into our last position group. We're going to go the forwards, and these are the only 4.
Look at that. 3 Crowies to start. That's what we love to see.
This is a stitch-up, Bales. I feel like you got this.
Yeah, you got me. You got me. I logged into your account and put all the Crowies in here.
But for good reason, mate. They're all being forwards this season. Bales, you'd be the perfect person to ask about this. What are we thinking? Lots of people in that forward position. We speak about, do people take away and do players take away from each other when that happens? Who are we looking at as more of the upside player here? And what are we thinking about their 2024 campaigns?
Yeah, so it's easy just to bunch all 3 of these players in. So Chelsea Randall's the one I'm highest on. I think she will be based on, I know her forward rank there says 19. I just feel like there was a couple of games she scored quite low in, either a different role, but I'd still see her as one of the sort of those main midfielders that will spend time forward. So she'll probably have more of a split between midfield and forward. So Chelsea Randall for me, I packed the gold. I think it might have been a few weeks ago. So really happy that I've got the gold.
Beauty.
I want a bronze in there so I can play it in the starter comp. But yeah, Chelsea Randall's definitely someone that will feature a lot in the forward lines, because really besides, you got Bonnie Toogood, you've got Kate Horan and Gemma Houghton as the 3 sort of main options. But then outside of that, there's not sort of a heap of other ones you're confident in. Whereas I think Chelsea Randall's probably the one that I'd be confident in, because unlike sort of other formats where it's season-long ones, obviously game day squad, you can change it like week on week. And I think Randall's definitely one that if she's carrying an injury, you can swap her out with game day squad. That's the good thing about it. So,
yeah.
And yeah, I think as long as she's fit and firing, I think she'll be one of the top sort of 5 forwards. So yeah, I'm high on her. And then Eloise Jones and Caitlin Gould, again, because of the lack of forwards, if you've got them in your club, you might not have some of the other forwards, because I think they're going to be quite scarce, and people will be trying to sort of get these players. But if you've got a couple of them, I think good matchups could be what determines putting Eloise Jones and Caitlin Gould into your team. I expect both to have good years. We saw both have strong years last year, kicking plenty of goals, and we know that kicking goals in game day squad is what we want there. So yeah, definitely 2 to have in your club, and you can sort of put them in your team. Maybe not like Chelsea Randall would be in your team, your squad most of the year, but yeah, definitely a couple of players you want in your club for sure.
Yeah, I like to play. I think Randall does have the more upside and is a little bit safer, but Gould definitely is an interesting one. We know she's going to spend time in the ruck. She had only averages of 7 hit-outs per game from last season, but she averaged a goal a game as well. She can get her hands on the ball just that little bit more. I feel like Gould can, enter that conversation, and let's not compare it to Sabrina Frederick because the numbers are vastly different, but could start creeping into that sort of role. A forward that's going to play some good time in the ruck and have a really good fantasy floor, because I feel like it's just such a safe role once you have it. So, mate, I'm pretty in agreement there with you, but I'm definitely maybe a little bit more optimistic about Gould, the season she can have, and definitely a stash for your clubs. And could even be someone I'm rolling out in round 1, pending on some matchups. And we're going to have some matchup data for you all coming out as well, so you can have a look at where the best matchups are to try to help yourself set that winning squad.
Beautiful.
Mate, but let's talk about our last player, Mariana Anthony. Carlton Blues had an average of 73.2 per game last season, but only played 6 games, so has a rank of 49. But that average will tell you a lot more, Bales. How are we feeling about the season and the campaign she's about to have?
Yeah, so probably a little bit unsure with Anthony. Yeah, she's probably the one that I'm most unsure about of all the ones we've gone through, because obviously she was a rookie player in other formats last year and didn't know too much about her, and she started off really well with a couple of really strong scores. But so then I don't actually remember why she missed a couple of games towards the end of the year. But probably someone I'd be wanting to watch in preseason, but because of the forward line not being a plethora of options to put in our squads, Marianne Anthony is someone that I think to put on your watch list and sort of look at her role, what could her scoring potential be, and could be someone that we plug and play in our squad. So yeah, someone to keep an eye on in the preseason and early in the season.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Look, forward line, I started setting, I guess, my squad for the season. I have a feeling and I don't have a feeling, I know it was definitely the hardest position group to sort of put together for myself. There's a couple question mark players in there, and so I'm just not sure. But Anthony, as of right now, I do have her there. But as you said, her season was a little bit rocky. I'm not quite sure. There definitely is really good upside with a nice average and with some better health. I guess we're going to see, but is a bit of a stash. The forward line is definitely very weak, and I think in the preseason, it's something you're going to want to watch. You're going to have a look and you're going to want to look at, the players who have forward status in game day squad and who's spending a bit of time in the midfield, who's getting their hands on the ball. Because, yeah, I feel like you nailed it on the head. You got Too Good, you've got Hawthorne, and you've got Kate Hoare as well. And then after that, there's definitely a little bit of a drop in terms of forward production. So those other 3 to 4 spots are just up for grabs for me, and I'm still not, I guess, sure on who's going to take those for me.
Well, here's a question with that bit without notice for you. In terms of if we're talking about the scarcity of forwards, do you think that Bonnie Too Good will be the most sought after card in game day squad this year?
Most, maybe not, but oh gosh, she's got to be top 3 just because
So I was going to say, I guess your Marinoffs and stuff would be at the top as well. But I'll tell you what, with the lack of forwards, she was Bonnie Too Good was a good 20 points better than all the forwards listed this year. She's clear and above number 1. With Gardner last year, obviously they were the top sort of 2 there, but with Gardner as a midfielder now, I think Bonnie Too Good you have to have her in your side because you're just giving up so many points if you don't have her.
Mate, I totally agree. And I guess you nailed it on the head. It's that point differential between, the top forward in Bonnie Too Good to even rank number 2. There's a 20-point, 30-point margin between these players. So, that's definitely one that you need to get. And I guess that's sort of the same with the midfielders, but there are a couple more midfielders that sort of have that really high upside and those high averages. But Too Good is just, the name says it all, mate.
She's
you
too
absolutely need her in your forward line for the season. And she's just levels above everyone else for that role. And she's so diverse. You'll see her play, and sometimes you won't even know where she's playing on the field because she'll be in the forward line at one point, she'll be down back taking intercept mark the other, and then she'll be running up the wing with the ball the next thing. You're just, what is going on? She is literally the entire package and more for Essendon. So
exactly. I'm just seeing Cow's comment there about the
good to
Crows.
see Bale smiling about his Crows.
It was a good weekend, good win.
Yeah, good win on the weekend.
And I think we might even have another win on Saturday. We're playing some team in the showdown, so yeah, looking forward to that. I think Cal's already started the showdown week on a Monday, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. I do expect Port to win that game, to be honest, but we'll see. It should be a good game regardless.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we're talking about AFLW and women's Aussie rules, bloody Crows, mate. Very optimistic about the season they're about to have. God,
well, they played Port 3 games in a row. So they played them in a practice game in Port Augusta this past weekend. They're playing another game on the Oval, the official practice game against Port this weekend. And then round 1, they're playing at Alberton against Crows versus Port. So it's showdowns galore. We got the men's showdown this weekend. We've got women's showdown last week and this weekend.
Stop.
And then round 1 of the AFLW, we've got another showdown. So it's crazy.
They need to stop. Adelaide's just so divided right now. They need to bring everyone back together. They're just showdown after showdown. But Bales, we're about to wrap up. But before we do, I think we're going to have a look at, we spoke about some All-Stars, but what are All-Stars? So All-Stars is the best squad of 22 from last season. So it's the best of the best. Of course, there are position changes, which is why you see someone like a Sarah Rowe and Gardner having a forward icon on their cards, but unfortunately they will be a mid for this season. So you can't play this card in the forward line. But they became an all-star in the forward line. So that's why we still have it there. But what it is, Bales, if you go to the store, you can see we've got common packs. Again, to play Game Day Squad, you don't need to purchase any packs. We're going to give you free player cards and you continue to get free player cards as you go along. But if you want to fast track your journey, you've got different variety of packs. And you'll see down here, we have an all-star pack. You've got a different chance to pull an all-star with each one of these. And Bales, today, we're going to be having a look. We've got 2 all-star common packs down here to open.
Oh.
Seeing as you're the guest, what I want you to do firstly, I want you to pick someone in the chat right now, or we can give it a second. Pick someone in the chat that's that you want to give a card to, and then we can have a look at the rest of the pack and see what goodies are in there for you. So,
I reckon I'll pick C-Fame because he said he's will you try to sub for Gardner? Well, if you want, mate, you can sub and I'll pick you for the card here. So we might be able to do that sort of trade. So negotiation, and we might need to get that done. So I'll pick.
That's a great deal. Yeah, absolutely fair. Alrighty, and leave some comments right now if you want to play a card. I will be up next, Bales. Let's go with you first. C-Fame and Bales, good luck. Well, at least the platinum in here. Do you like to hover over, or do you just want to?
I do normally like to hover over. Yeah, I normally do that every time I open it.
So do I. I'm the same, but Cal he just goes nuts on them, and
it's crazy. Got to hover over.
Okay. Well, where was the platinum? We won't open the platinum first. There it is.
Actually, I'm gonna have to go. Geez, you're ripping through. I'm not even getting time to.
Ooh!
Bang!
Ooh! Now
that's a good one.
Is a bloody pull. And we've got a... Oh, gosh. You know what? Gold. Riddell absolutely saves that. Well, Bales, the choice is yours, mate.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I don't actually have Riddell, so I have to keep that one, unfortunately. So
absolute stash.
If C-Fame, if you want to put in the chat, if there's a certain player outside of Riddell that you'd like, I can definitely... we can definitely give the player to you, but yeah, unfortunately, the Riddell one, I'm gonna have to keep on that one.
Let us know. Here's a good look at it. Here's a good look.
It's a C-Fame, whichever player you'd like. Let us know, and you can have that player.
Absolutely, I reckon we can hook him up with a couple of players from there after we get you your if no all-star meatball sub, please. Love it. Well, I'm going to go with Sean Walcott. It is time to... I've never pulled an all-star, by the way. I do have an all-star in the... I have 2 in the Aussie Rules game, but I purchased both of them off our transfer market.
You got to go a bit slow with this one, mate. We've got to sort of get the suspense going.
All right. We've done the middle. We've done the middle. There's nothing there. We've got 4 spots left. Where are you feeling? Where is it?
Huh? Oh no, I was meaning when you sort of turn over the players, just sort of just chill a bit, and we'll sort of go through sort of the players as we go and build up the suspense.
Okay. Let's start here. What, Swanee?
One of your Swannies.
Ooh.
It's actually blurry on my screen, so I can't actually quite read the names that are coming. So it's more just numbers for me. It's a tiny bit better, actually. It's a tiny bit better.
That helps you, mate.
Well, Tully Higgy's a good one. Tully's a good one. Yeah. Dynasty as well. Young Ruck.
Oh, goodness.
I don't think your luck was on. Your luck certainly wasn't here tonight, Tom. But
no. Well, I guess I'll give out Hickey for sure. Dynasty asset. We'll get that to Sean, and then the rest of these not too hot, unfortunately, but at least there's a Swan for me.
C-Fame says spin the wheel again. That's funny.
But Bales, mate, that's going to wrap us up. Our first bit of preseason content for the upcoming AFLW fantasy season. The women's Aussie Rules game on Game Day squad is just launching, just kicking off. So it's not to get your squads in. Sign up today, get your player cards, and start, building your dream squad at that. We are going to be back here next week, 8 p.m., same time, same places as we are right now. And we're going to be doing some player rankings. So that's where you're going to be able to see not just the position changes, but what we think is going to be the best of the best. And I guess a preview into what we think the All-Star squad will be for the upcoming season. Bales, mate, any final comments? You want to wrap this all up?
Just looking forward to the season starting. Obviously, we've got a couple of weeks left of the men's footy season to go. So still obviously putting in our teams for both the rugby league and the Aussie Rules there. So looking forward to doing those for a couple of weeks. But yeah, no, looking forward to the women's footy starting. So no, I can't wait.
100%, mate. I can't bloody wait to get into this season with you. First show, done and dusted. For all of you that have made it this far, thank you so much. We do have the All-Star Kate Hoare. That's going to be announced and pulled at the end of our preseason content. So every week, you can come here, you can put in another submission. And if you missed it before, let me quickly tell you again. Get your squad name on our YouTube channel. Go to Game Day Squad's YouTube channel. Leave a comment under this show with your squad name on Game Day Squad, which means if you haven't signed up, sign up and you can already enter the competition. And leave a like on the video whilst you're there. Each week, every time you comment, it'll be a different submission as well, but only one submission per week. But cheers, everybody. Thanks so much